Hey there, it's Mark from Third Shot Sports. I recently sat down with Michael Branon, author of Pickleball and the Art of Living, to talk about his new book that just came out. And we recorded that for the podcast, Pickleball Problems, but we also made this video about it. So you can watch the video, you can listen to the podcast, whatever you like. If you like what you hear and you want to check out the book yourself, and maybe even buy a copy, you can get a signed copy too. Just go to the link down below and go for it. All right, enjoy the talk. Okay, Mike Branon, welcome. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Your book, Pickleball and the Art of Living. I'm wondering if, for our listeners or for our viewers, if you were going to give them the elevator pitch of what this book is about, what would that be?
No one's ever asked me. No, it's actually quite simple. It's to get the most out of your life and out of your pickleball game. There's a lot of different ways to approach these things, and most of us, I think, actually know what we want to get out of life. We just sometimes don't take an active enough role in it to make it happen. We just kind of let life happen to us. This book is about kind of giving you a roadmap to say, okay, this is where I am. This is where I want to be. These are the steps to get there. And I draw on the knowledge of the people that have been writing about the same subject for thousands of years, everything from the ancient Greeks all the way up to modern times, to modern neuroscience. So it's really a complete look at ways to get the most out of life and have a good time while you're at it. A lot of times, philosophy and deep thoughts, we think, okay, I've got to put on my serious face now and figure this out and go step by step. And really, a lot of it is intuitive, just trusting your gut. And so I see all the time when I'm working with people, either when I'm playing with them or coaching them, I see them get in their own way a lot of negative self-talk, a lot of frustration. And so what I'm trying to do here is just to give a light, fun look at the game and your life and say, hey, you're pretty darn lucky to be where you are right now. Let's figure out ways to do this the right way and enjoy ourselves.
Well, I'm curious. I mean, when you first mentioned to me that you were working on this kind of book, and it caught my attention in part because so much of what you see in the pickleball world right now when it comes to books are really focused on pickleball, on playing the game of pickleball, right? The strategies you might use if you want to move from being a 3.5 player to a 4.0, or a more sort of technical manual or technical document about the kind of mechanics that you need in order to play. And so your book seems to take a very different approach. And I'm wondering, what was it that sort of sparked your desire to write this book? Because if I'm correct, this is your first published book?
It is.
So what was the motivation that really sort of got this train rolling?
So the funny thing about this is I had no intention whatsoever of writing about pickleball. I was one of those lucky few people that was trapped on a cruise ship off the coast of Australia back in February and March when the pandemic broke out. And so I wrote this book out of self-defense, because either after my workout in the morning, I would start drinking about 8:30, or I could start writing and maybe do something constructive with myself until I put off drinking till a reasonable hour, like 10 o'clock. It was, I just started to, it was a great atmosphere to do it in. I was obviously alone and had nowhere else to go, and nobody would let us disembark in any country. We were zigzagging across the Pacific for 25 days. Thank God nobody on the ship was actually sick. We weren't one of those ships, but that didn't stop people from making sure we didn't land. So I decided, kind of one of the motifs of the book is, when things go sideways on you, what do you do? Well, let's do something constructive. Let's do what we can do. Same with your pickleball game. If you're stuck in a rut, well, what can you do? Well, you can just accept it and enjoy where you are. That's absolutely fine. Or, you can look to learn. There's so many things like your channel and like you said, instructional books and so forth. So just make the most out of it. So what inspired me to write this was kind of being trapped and going, okay, well, I've got nothing else to do. Let's do it. And so I wrote the entire book. It had a paragraph on pickleball. And so when I got home, I sent it off to a couple of my friends in the book business. And I said, what do you think? They said, hey, we love your writing. This is really cool. No one's ever going to read this. because you're writing, you're not famous. And in these days in the publishing world, apparently it's a prerequisite to be famous first and then write a book rather than write a book to become famous. And I'm thoroughly unfamous. I know no social media presence. I keep a low profile in life and just try to enjoy the basics. And so they both independently of each other, neither one has spoken to each other, said, hey, that pickleball thing, I've heard about that. That's interesting. What if you expanded on that? And so I took their advice to an extreme and wrote a whole damn book about it.
Wow, I had no idea it came from such sort of a difficult time. Often when you hear about people who are planning to write a book, it's very kind of deliberate, right? And
Oh yeah,
you set out a schedule and they're going to go and do it. And in your case, it's like, well, we're stuck on the cruise ship anyway, might as well do something productive.
yeah. It was written on that, like the a bunch of, like, the back of bar tabs and napkins and it's very fancy stuff. So yeah, I can't say I ever set out to do this, but once it happened, it was really fascinating, Mark. It was I found that, I think, like all of us, we all have something to say. And when you actually have the discipline to put it down in writing, it starts to grow in and of itself. And it's kind of the same approach that I'm taking as far as my advice for pickleball in life, is that, what, you've got to embrace discipline a little bit. I mean, I think there's a part of us that when we think about discipline, we think, oh no, I'm being disciplined, this is a bad thing. But when you look back at a day after you've had a full day and go, you know what, I did what I wanted to do today. I lived according to my values. I got stuff done. I put in the effort. I worked out. I ate well. I played the game right. I enjoyed everybody I was with. It takes discipline to do that. And when you do that, at the end of the day, you put your head on the pillow and you go, you know what, that was a good day.
So it strikes me that, the title of this book, Pickleball and the Art of Living, it's, this title obviously pays homage to some of the other books that are out there, right? Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Yep.
Zen and the Art of Archery is one. Even within pickleball, we have the Art of Pickleball.
Right.
So I'm wondering if you can say something a little bit about that title selection. What is it about? What is it about pickleball and the art of living, as opposed to something else that you could have named this book? Can you say something about the relationship between that title and essentially the content of the book?
Absolutely. And that's a great question, because life and anything you do is an art. If you actually put yourself to it and throw yourself into the process. I mean, when you watch a great player play pickleball, like the pros, and you look at them, and my first reaction anyways, probably like many people, is, how do they do that? That's amazing. And then when it comes to great writing, you think, oh my gosh, this is, this really speaks to me. What an amazing piece of work. What a piece of art this is. And so I think a lot of us, when we talk about the art of living, is that our life is our canvas. We have an opportunity to create art out of our life, whether that's to raise a family, to help others, to succeed in business, whatever that is. It's not, if you don't look at it as your art project, it becomes pretty mundane. It's just like you're just getting through day after day. The art of living is about really embracing life. And the pickleball part is about embracing your pickleball game and say, hey, you know what? I'm spending all this time out here. Why don't I take it up another level? Why don't I really take time to feel grateful, to there's this book I refer to in my book called Hardwiring Happiness. And the point is that we are actually descendants evolutionarily of Homo sapiens that survived by being negative. It sounds odd, but the only reason they survived because they were looking for a saber-toothed tiger behind every rock. The guy that was out in the forest taking cleansing breaths and doing meditation and looking up at the sky was basically prey. He wasn't on the lookout. So we're the descendants of people that looked at things negatively. We have to rewire ourselves to spend at least as much time focusing on the positive, the gratitude that's out there, as we do on the negative. And so when you listen to a pickleball game in progress, you'll hear a lot of or damn, or what, just like arg. And then when you actually hear the people that are laughing, you start and smiling and having a good time. You go, that's the art of pickleball, is to rewire your life and your attitude to look at things positively. And you can take the exact same set of circumstances and make it wonderful as you can make it awful. So that's the art part of this, is to look at your life as that canvas that you were creating art on.
Right. And so it sounds like really what you're kind of advocating for, the thesis here, is that there's a choice, right? There's a choice about how you choose to perceive the world around you, and whether that happens to be being stuck on a cruise ship during the start of a pandemic, or whether you are, you hit a third shot drop that again goes into the top of the net, right? You have a choice about how you can react to that and how you respond to that sort of stimulus. Is that right? The sort of deliberate opportunity.
That's absolutely right. And the funny thing about this is, if you were to tell somebody this, their reaction would probably, first thing they would say is, I know. Okay, we all know. How do we make it happen? How do we actually rewire ourselves and create that person that we want to be? Because one thing I go over a lot in the book, I've taught psychology and I've studied neuroscience, is that most of our behaviors, all of our behaviors, come from an emotional seed. The emotional brain precedes the prefrontal cortex, precedes the rational brain. So everything that we experience in life has an emotional underpinning to it. And so unless we are able to skillfully learn to observe those emotions with our higher self, we can just be at the whim. We can just live reflexively, reacting instead of acting. So if we just keep reacting to emotions, okay, my third shot hit the tape again. Just absolute frustration. Your emotional self says that. But it's when you start to look at the big picture and figure out better ways of living, you are able to actually witness your emotional self having its little tantrum and go, that's okay. All that means is we need to practice a bit more. We need to focus on this or that. And then if we don't do it right, we need to smile and laugh, because we're playing a game and we're playing with our friends. And you look at the crazy world we live in right now, to be able to do that is such a blessing. So it's being able to observe yourself to make the change you want to make in your life.
You mentioned that this book and the ideas within it don't exist in a vacuum, but they're part of sort of a long historical process, right?
Right.
Talk about going back to the ancient Greek philosophers or elsewhere, and I know you spoke to some people sort of today, right, who are out there who are maybe thinking about this. So I'm wondering if, without giving away too much of the book, if you could.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Were there any sort of lessons or stories or examples as you were doing your research for this book, as you were doing these interviews and thinking about it? Were there any lessons that really stood out to you, that struck a chord more than some of the other ones, let's say, for ways that people who maybe want to rethink their relationship with pickleball or their relationship with life? Were there any stories that really stood out to you that you think could be useful to the average pickleball player?
Yeah, there's this one in particular. There's this incredible guy. He's in the pickleball world, and he just is so wise and knowing. His name is Mark Renneson, and oh my gosh, he's good looking. He's insightful. But no, really, you told me a brief story when I spoke to you in the book, and it was, and the message was, your number one message was, it's not about you. And I relate in the book that very night after you'd said that to me, I was with a friend of mine, and she's got stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And we were together for a while and having an emotional conversation. And at one point, she just stopped and just, paused, and then looked me in the eyes and said, the way I'm dealing with this, I just have to realize it's not about me. It's about my kids. It's about my friends. It's about people reacting to my situation. I just have to live my life. And so that kind of thing, when you can live, obviously, life at some level is about you. It's your life. But when you live a less self-centered life, when you can escape ego a little bit and actually think, okay, how can I benefit others? How can I make, when you're playing a game, how can I make this more enjoyable for my pickleball partners? It's not about scowling and eye rolling when they miss an easy shot. It's not about grinding on yourself and negative self-talk. It's, you know what, I just can't take this too personally. Again, I'm playing a game. And if you extend that, the whole idea is pickleball in this book is a metaphor for life. If you extend that feeling to the rest of your life, you can actually learn lessons on the court that can inform your life. And you can say, you know what, when someone cuts me off in traffic, when, you know, my puppy who's downstairs going crazy, as we try to start the Zoom call, decides he's going to go into the bathroom trash can and redecorate the living room. I mean, that, you know, I can respond to that and saying, how could he do this to me? And you can look at like a line call. How could they call that on me? How could they do this to me? And once you shift your way of being into, it's not about me, life is easier. I mean, you just don't take things so personally. You go, oh, that happened.
Yeah, I think that's a nice example. I also think of it, you know, I often hear from people who are talking about, let's say, the relationship between two partners who play doubles together.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm playing with someone and I miss a shot and my person yells at me or they get upset or whatever. It's not actually about me, right? They're angry about all these other things. Sometimes they might not even have anything to do with what's going on the pickleball court, right? They're mad because, you know, their toilet got backed up this morning before they left the house and now they've got a flood that they've got to deal with or whatever it might be. And so I think you're right that that kind of perspective really sort of changes the way that you look at not just what you're doing, but the people that you're doing it with. Absolutely. It just changes your whole, your relationship with life. You know, I talk in the book about the idea of the growth mindset. If you have a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, a growth mindset has nothing to protect. When your mindset is one of growth, when you hear criticism, you know, as long as it's not mean, you take it as, this is an opportunity for me to think again about who I am and how I am, you know, instead of how could they say that about me? You know, who do they think they are? And so when you start to do that, when you start to reflexively look that way and nurture your growth mindset in all kinds of ways, you just become more creative. You're freer because you realize it's not about me. I don't have to take this so personally. I've been given this gift of life, and I've been given the gift of being able to play with my friends like I did when I was a little child. I mean, how much better can it get? So, you know, I'm not saying that there's not problems in the world, and I'm not saying that there's not, and I talk in the book a lot about, you know, serious subjects about death and grieving and obstacles and all of these difficult things we have in life. But you know what, in the world that we live in right now, this is as good a time as any to see the dysfunction that's out there and go, you know what, I'm not signing up for that. I'm not going to play that game anymore. I'm going to play the game of living joyfully, helping others, and just watching my life unfold in the way I've always wanted it to. So it's you know, as we're talking about this, and it strikes me that you know, we can think about how if we think about life differently, then you know, the bad things that happen to us on the pickleball court maybe don't seem so bad, right? We put things in perspective. And I'm wondering if, as you've been thinking about this and writing the book and doing the research, whether there's another side of the coin here where not just that you're, let's say, a more positive perspective or a growth mindset perspective, not just can help you sort of deal with the challenges of pickleball, but can you say something about whether that kind of a mindset or that kind of approach can actually improve pickleball performance? Because I know we're going to have people listening or watching who are like, this sounds great, but what I really want to do is play better pickleball. Absolutely. Right? Okay, yeah, I want to have a nice life too, but right now I've got this tournament coming up next month and I want to be able to perform better. So I guess we could call this like the instrumentalist approach to thinking about life in a more artful way, let's say. Right. Can there be an instrumental benefit to thinking about life this way when it comes to performing better on the pickleball court? Absolutely. That is a terrific point, Mark. And I've seen this with my students quite graphically. I think, especially when you're just getting into the game, there's so much self-doubt that's in play. And when you start to remove that self-doubt by not
taking it so personally and not grinding about making mistakes, then you just free yourself up. The other day, I was working with a wonderful woman who's just beginning the game. And I was trying to work with her on her footwork, to get in the right position to hit her ground strokes. And, she was so frustrated because she has not developed a kinetic chain over time. She doesn't have that background. So we're building it from scratch. And then when she starts to get it, when she starts to just not spend so much time criticizing herself and just starts to let it flow, all of a sudden I'm watching her and it's just happening. And so this happens on every level of pickleball, from the beginning all the way up to more advanced players. When you just let things flow, when you have this attitude, again, we've talked about, how does it really benefit your game? You put yourself in that area, which I refer to as unconscious competence, where it just flows. You don't have to think about, oh, my feet need to be here, my paddle needs to be there, and then I'm looking up where my opponent is, and now I must execute this shot. It just flows from you. So the whole idea is, when you have this positive mindset as you're playing, you don't have indecision. I mean, we all know what it's like to have a shot come up and you've got plenty of time to hit it, and then you botch it, and the first thing you hear is, I had too much time to think about that. Right. So the whole idea on this is to just embrace that flow. And then when you do make mistakes, you don't get caught up in reliving those mistakes. You get right to the next point. You come right back to that present moment and go, okay, I made a mistake. I don't have to take this personally. What can I do next? Well, all I can do next is play my next point. So it just is a way of you don't second guess yourself. You don't get caught up in line calls. You just go, okay, I'm playing a game and I'm going to enjoy myself. And so when you have that mindset that doesn't get caught up in the drama, you're able to perform at your best.
Well, isn't that something that all of us would like? And it sounds to me like this book would be a great read for anyone, no matter what their skill level, no matter what their background, if you want to not only play better pickleball, but have maybe a different perspective on how it fits into the rest of life and how they might kind of inform each other. It seems like this could be a really great read for anybody.
Yeah, Mark, I mean, I appreciate that. And I think the best thing, to be honest with you, about writing a book is, first of all, I wrote a book, so I'm really proud of that. That's hard to do. Sure. And the next thing is that I learned a lot about the book world, and I realized that I didn't write this thing to make a lot of money, and it's a good thing because it's not in the cards. Unless you're that 1 in a million, it doesn't really happen. I wrote this book as part of my life goal is to continue to help people, to share the blessings that I've had in my life. And the best thing I've had is the feedback from others who've read the book. And it's just been so positive. Everything from, wow, I didn't realize, that about, because I do a little instruction at the end. I didn't realize that about, what your basics are on the dink. I didn't realize that this is the way you do this or that. But mainly it's like, yeah, this has really helped me to either appreciate my life more or to appreciate my partner more, both on the court and off the court, because I talk a lot about relationships. And so yeah, I wrote this book to help people. Whenever I get that feedback, I mean, it really warms my heart. And the more happy pickleball players and people out there in this world today, the better off we are. There's enough of that other junk going on. So any small pebble I can throw in that pond, and whatever ripples come from it, I'm very gratified.
So if people would like to get themselves a copy of Pickleball and the Art of Living by Mike Branon, where would they go? How do they get this?
Nice plug. They can go on Amazon and they can just type in Pickleball and the Art of Living. They can type in my name, Mike Branon. They can also go to my website, mikebranon.com, which is M-I-K-E, that's not too hard, Branon, BRANON.com. And you can see all kinds of features and blogs and hopefully some stuff that'll make you smile. Pictures of Cabo, the pickleball pup, who's hopefully stopped trashing my house and is now back to being his noble self. And And yeah, I'm going to try to keep it again. We talk about some serious subjects, and the book does have a serious side to it. But I think the main thing I want people to realize about this book is that I have tried to fill it with humor. My avatar in the book is the Laughing Buddha. I tend toward Buddhism, and the Laughing Buddha, it kind of personifies who I want to be on the court, and who I want others to be on the court. Is like, you know what, live your best life. But if you don't have your fair share of laughs, who cares? Come on, if you're not enjoying it, you're not doing it right. So yeah, MikeBranon.com or Pickleball and the Art of Living on Amazon, and a substantial percentage of everything, what little I do make on the book, does go to charities for hunger relief and disaster relief that I'm involved with. So you're doing a good deed too.
Well, we'll be sure to link to all of those so people can get their own copy of Pickleball and the Art of Living. Mike Branon, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a real pleasure to talk to you, and congratulations on your debut book.
Thank you, Mark, and best for you on all your endeavors. I do love your content, and I hope everybody out there can learn and laugh with you, and do the same with me.
You're very kind. All right, thanks, Mike. We'll be in touch, and we'll talk to you soon.
Take care, Mark.
Bye. So there you have it, Pickleball and the Art of Living. Check it out at Amazon.com or at MikeBranon.com. Thanks to our very good friends over at Selkirk Sport. They help us to make all our videos possible. And remember, this is from our podcast, Pickleball Problems. We've just started recording videos of them, so if you like what you heard and you want to listen to the podcast, use your favorite podcast recording app and check it out, Pickleball Problems. All right, until next time, I'm Mark Renneson. See you soon.